Welcome to Possum's Corner. Today we're talking about salvation. Salvation is not praying a prayer. It ain't walking down the aisle, convincing the preacher of anything. It's not even observing rules that are thousands of years old. It's not agreeing with the concept of the gospel and everything's fluffy bunnies, rainbows, and Jesus until we all go to heaven. It's not any of those things. Everybody wants to be okay, man. I mean, but not everybody wants to have a Lord. I mean, that's really the issue, right? I mean, that I want to be okay, but I don't want to stop sinning. That's the bottom line. I want to do what I want to do because, the flesh wants what the flesh wants. And I'd rather feed that wrong dog and have it grow up and eat me alive instead of have my sin cleansed away from me, to be delivered from myself. Salvation actually means to be rescued or delivered. So you ask, from what? Well, from everything that's not God, right? Salvation is me being saved from me. It's important that you get that. Being saved from me. Being saved from my own way, from my own perception. Everything that does not find its source or originate from God is what I need to be saved from. I kind of told you stuff that led up to it, but the bottom line is I knew there had to be more, and I was desperate to find it. I had dinner with a buddy of mine one night and our wives, and we got to talking, and I said, I'm going on a journey to find the more, whatever that is, and I ain't coming back. And this dude said, stay on that path. It was Scott. And when he said it, there was weight there. And not long after that, I was home one evening, and me and my wife were sitting in the living room watching TV. And I got on my knees and I put my face in the seat part of my recliner and I began to weep. And in my heart, I was crying out to God. I don't even know who you are, man, but I know there's more than what I got. I felt a void, a dissonance in my heart. I knew there had to be more. God, show yourself to me, and I'll give you everything. And that's where it all began. And it wasn't long after that I started having dreams. I was reading the ancient path. God began speaking to me. It's crazy. You may be sitting out there listening to me share my story with you, and you're thinking, wow, that sounds pretty wild. Or you may be thinking, well, that's a typical salvation deal. The guy was in the error of his ways and God came delivering him and everything. But think about it. That is freaking off the chain, real stuff. And it doesn't matter if you're like Possum or you're some home skillet or you're a executive or who you are. God is real. And if you cry out to Him with all your heart, those who diligently seek me find me. He will respond to you. And you have that opportunity now.
Okay. You say now trusting the vision, and you have here dipping and rotten angle brace.
Yeah. Well, when all of this story that I just told you happened, right? When God started speaking to me in different ways, and I had dreams and visions and different things, and I always believed that God spoke that way, but I mean, this was like off the chain, in your face. Something's happening to me every day. God's speaking to me about something, right? Mm-hmm. So I was driving down the road, and I'm a salesman, so I was going to make a sales call, and I was talking to God about dip and snuff. I'm a man that most of my life I had a very addictive personality and was addicted to a lot of different things. And snuff, it's crazy, but snuff is probably one of the most addictive things that I have ever given myself to. And I'm driving down the road and I got a big dip of snuff in my mouth and I'm talking to God. I'm not going to quit dipping snuff. I'm going to talk to God about it and let Him show me the truth about it, right?
Rather than cut the fruit.
Right. I'm not going to cut the fruit and make the tree look better for a time and then bigger, uglier fruit grow back. I'm going to talk to God about it and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing until I hear God speak. So anyway, I'm driving down the road and I'm talking to God about it and I have this vision. And it was just clear as day and I guess in my mind's eyes, the only way I know how to explain it, I just saw this scenario and it was like I was inside a log cabin of sorts and the walls were logs and it had like supports going up from the foundation, you know, and then trusses for the roof. And then there was an angle brace that connected the two, like at the right angle, designed to support that roof beam, right? And I looked at it in the vision and I pulled out my pocket knife and I started jabbing it to test it and see, was it solid? And the whole thing just crumbled and fell out. Now, stay with me, this is kind of weird, but in that moment, I knew God was speaking to me about the snuff. Not just because I was talking to Him about it, I just knew God impressed upon me, this is about the snuff. And when I got revelation, talking to God about it, I'm asking Him, and it's like, oh, aha, I see it. Snuff is not really doing anything for me. There's no real support for me dipping snuff, right? There's nothing good comes from that. In fact, you can it's rotten, it's bad. You can do without it. There's no need to have that there. This structure's solid, right? And I never dip snuff again. I mean, that sounds near impossible or crazy or what, but that's God. Well, here's the deal. What about you? Are you willing to experience this salvation that I'm talking about? Because if you are, you're going to have to stop and cry out to God. You've got to hear God. You must hear His voice. And you have to choose that. I mean, this crap don't just happen, you know. What you don't realize is you are in bondage. You're in chains to your own desires. And you got so many of them, it's like freaking herding cats to round them all up. That not a job that's too big for God. He can do that, but you have to choose. And just like me that night, laying my face in the butt of my chair, right? Crying out, God, I need whoever you are. I mean, think about it. I didn't even know if it was Jesus. I didn't know. God, show me who you are. If you're Buddha, I don't care. Show me who you are. You cry out to God from wherever you are. You choose that. You choose a relationship with God. And I promise you, He is good. He will show you that He's faithful, and He will show you that He's desirous of having a relationship with you. He'll begin to speak to you, and it grows from there. And the more you trust, the more He'll speak. Okay, well, you think about the story with me and the snuff or whatever. You know, it's got to start with a choice. You must choose to cry out to God. You're here and you're hearing what we're talking about and you're accountable to it. As of now, you've heard the truth and you know how it works, okay? So cry out to God to speak to you. God knows what sin you need to be delivered from first and next and so on. So you cry out to Him with all your heart and He'll speak to you. When He speaks to you, talk to Him about what He's saying. You know, it may be something that's just cut and dry, bada bing, here you don't need to do this, and you stop doing it and you continue to talk to Him about it. Or it may be something that you accomplish a little bit along as you have relationship with him. It may be something that fosters maybe a longer conversation, but ultimately when you trust, when you see like he sees, and you trust and obey, he will deliver you from sin. Your mind will be changed and you will not be pulled by that sin any longer.
Okay, so what do we do with the person who says, well, I went through that. I thought God already dealt with that. But here, a year later or so, he's speaking about it again.
Well, you must have thought it, because if he's speaking about it again, then you told yourself something. God's not speaking to hear his lips flap. He's telling you something because, again, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, he desires to have a relationship with you. He desires for you to not be in bondage to your sin. He desires for you to see things like he sees them, so you can walk with him in open, honest relationship. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but they don't want to stop sinning. Bottom line, if the sin is still pulling you, you're not delivered. It's still there. You know, we talked about, well, I thought I did that. Well, guess what? You didn't. Men have jacked up salvation for all kinds of motivations, whether it's monetary or ego or whatever. They have turned salvation into something that it's not. The good news is you can be changed. You don't have to stay the same anymore. God speaks. He desires a relationship with you, and you can trust him and have a real-time one-on-one relationship with him where he delivers you from the practice of daily sin. Not knowing positive or having sufficient evidence to guide me, I feel a supreme delicacy in articulating for fear of promulgating something I can't masticate. If it's not truth, I ain't eating it, and I dang sure ain't going to try to peddle it to you.